My name is Pastor Cliff. I am an associate pastor of the UCAB Seventh-day Adventist Church. A few months ago, your former pastor asked me to come and speak. I didn't realize that this date that we chose, he was gone already. But it is a privilege for me to be here nonetheless, to be out here in Orange County. It is a wonderful place that we visit often because there is good food out here. Yes. We appreciate that. When we used to have pass to Disneyland, that was in the past, we used to come out here a lot more frequently, but it is always good to come out here on occasion. A little bit about myself. I've been working this conference since 2002, and it has been a joy to serve in this area in Loma Linda, Rubidoux for a couple years, down in San Diego, and back up to where I'm currently posted. I am married to Esther, and we have two kids, aged 12 and 7, and they both go to Loma Linda Academy. So thank you, Relove, for welcoming me and allowing me to spend a few moments with you this morning. Let me tell you something. I respect people that put on VBS. I am grateful for the people that come and really just do what you do, because I say this. It is the one evangelistic event that people both young and old all gather together. And so I think it is a wonderful thing that happens once a year, but I think it's a great catalyst to continue to build what God's kingdom is. This past week, my daughter had the privilege, even though it's not my church, being in Loma Linda, there's about a church within a stone's throw of your life, your house. And she went to the Azure Hills VBS because her cousins go there and stuff. And she told this week she had braces, and I just want to tell you my God sighting. And she had braces. I think it was Wednesday that she got braces. And when you get braces, initially it feels okay, but then the braces start to work. And it was starting to pull on her teeth. And there was at 3 o'clock that afternoon she got braces. By about 6 o'clock that she was in a bit of pain. And she told me afterwards, she goes, "Daddy, you know what? My friend prayed for me." And I said, that's why we do VBS. So kids can have encounters with Jesus and bring other kids to Jesus. So I'm grateful for the VBS people. Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you for leading all this hard work that you put in, and all the decorations. And the fun part comes next, the tear down. I hope you all go out to eat after. But kids, I have a question for you today. Let's bring out these next slides. I wonder if you remember this, that when we wonder, where's the first slide here of VBS? Here we go. The first day, what did you get? When you wonder, you can do what? You can trust in Jesus. When we feel alone, trust. When we feel powerless, when we need hope, and when we need help, hey, yes. It's not just young kids that need that reminder. Yes, I know you're a young one, but I'm an old one. And I need that reminder that when I wonder, when I'm alone, when I'm powerless, when I need hope, when I need help, I can trust in Jesus. And I think that's an important reminder, especially in times like these, because the past few weeks, pictures like these have been popping up, right? Wars happening all the time. The next slide, B-2 bombers dropping bombs to stop nuclear weapons from being made. Words like bunker busters have all of a sudden entered into our vocabulary. Pictures like these remind us of the fragility, how fragile of the world is the world that we live in. And we must continue to pray for our nation and for our people. As we see these pictures that come out, we realize it's not just the bombs that may be dropping on a different part of this world, but even in our own backyard, stuff that's not right is happening. And it's times like these that we're reminded that we are exiles in a foreign land. And I'm drawn to the words of Isaiah chapter 40. And in Isaiah chapter 40, it begins like this in verse 1. But when we think of Isaiah 40, sorry, before I go there, we often think of the last verse, right? But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run, they will not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. That's a beautiful text. But that's the way it ends. But as I studied this, I realized that there's so much depth if you read the rest of it. You see, Isaiah 40 is the second part of Isaiah, and it's written to actually a different situation, historical situation, than the first 39 chapters. It says, as I read in the commentator, it comes in the wake of the Babylonian exile. You see, the Babylonians had taken over Israel around the 530 BCE. But they said, the commentator writes that different Judeans experienced the exile in different ways, because there were some who, like their former king Jehoiachin, were in Babylon. They received rations, so they didn't have such a bad situation. Others were in labor camps. And so the idea of when it was time to go back to Jerusalem, well, it really wasn't good nor bad. You know, even though in Psalm 137 and Nehemiah 11, it's described as a joyous time. But what they were going back to was a destroyed city. They were going back to Jerusalem that had no temple, had no walls. It didn't have the comforts or protections that a city would have afforded them. In fact, the people, they said they had to cast lots. They had to be a lottery. If your name was chosen, they had to go back. And after 50 or more years in exiles, imagine returning back to the place after not being there for 50 years. You know, I grew up in Newbury Park, California. And when I've gone back recently, I may recognize the house that I live in, but the school that I once attended, there's a lot of changes. Maybe the buildings itself, because, you know, Adventist schools just don't change, right? But the area around it, I don't recognize. But maybe for some of you, the easiest way to relate to it, but it comes nowhere close to coming back from exile, is, have you ever come back from a nice vacation? And you need a vacation from the vacation, right? Because whether you've gone on a cruise or to a nice resort, coming back to face the reality of the laundry that needs to be folded, coming back to face the reality of the meals that now, instead of ordering or the buffet that you would go to, you have to make it now. Instead of the beds that were made for you once or twice each day, you have to make your own beds. And then there's a matter of, you got to go to work, or for kids, you got to go back to school, right? You're going to enjoy the next couple months. But then there's the reality that the grind has to happen. And so you can imagine the Israelites going back to the land that was destroyed by an enemy army. And so the bottom line is this. When the Israelites walked back, they realized they were home, but they weren't home. And so for us, for us living here in sunny Southern California, this message to the exiles may not necessarily resonate with us, because the Iran bombings and all that stuff is 6,000 miles away. But then even maybe with the stuff that we saw that's happening even in our own backyard, it starts hitting home. And maybe some people aren't here because they're rightfully scared. But maybe some of us, but sometimes if it's not happening to us, it's too easy to compartmentalize and say, well, if it's not happening to me, then it doesn't speak to me. But let's face it, we may not be worried about ICE. We may not be worried about bombs raining on our heads, but we're maybe worried about that job situation. We may be worried about a health issue. We may be worried about a relationship that is straining on us that seems beyond repair. Maybe you're dealing with the loss of a loved one. And the list can go on and on and on. And I'm sure you can fill in the blank of that one thing that you're crying out to God, God, help me. But let's face it, no matter what, we are all exiles in this world, and none of us can escape the pain. Because God's original creation has been invaded by an enemy. And the devil has sown plenty of seeds of destruction that affect us in some form or other. So the words of Isaiah to the exiles of Israel still ring true today. Isaiah 40, let's start with verse 1. It says these words, Comfort, comfort my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem and proclaim to her that her hard service has been completed, that her sin has been paid for, and she has received from the Lord's hand double for all her sins. What does Isaiah mean by all this? As we look at the rest of chapter 40, in verse 3, it says this. There's a promise in verse 3, fulfilled by John the Baptist. Later, one calling out in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. You see, while the people of Isaiah's day looked forward to the second coming of the Messiah that was eventually fulfilled in life, work, death, and resurrection of Jesus, they, along with us, look forward to the second coming of Jesus. In verse 10, it says, see, the sovereign Lord comes with power, and he rules with a mighty arm. See, his reward is with him, and his recompense accompanies him. The Israelites were told to hope in the promise of the Messiah. Their hope was pinned on that. And even though it seemed as if hope was lost because God promised it and it hadn't happened, because the first coming happened, now we have the benefit of seeing not just the first coming, but now we have hope for the second coming, right? And because Jesus was raised from the dead, we too can place our hope in the second coming of Jesus as we navigate through the challenges and the pain of the current life that we live in. Our hope is that which is founded in the fact that Jesus is coming again, and he will make all things right. He will restore all things that were broken. He will reunite us with those who have gone before us. He will renew all things, for the former things have passed away. And that's the hope that we have in the second coming of Jesus. And so the words of Isaiah is this: remember, Jesus is coming again. And the words of Isaiah to us today, remember, Jesus is coming again. It seems like it's scary to open social media or whatever the headlines are, because they're bound to focus on something bad that's happening. But as we read it, as Christians, put on the lens that reminds us Jesus is coming again. This world is not my home. We're just exiles, and we're passing through. Second thing is that God reigns and is in charge, especially in verse 15, because promises like these are important in times that we live in. It says, surely, verse 15, the nations are like a drop in a bucket. They are regarded as dust on the scales. He weighs the islands as though they are fine dust. That's the God that's coming again. They're like fine dust. Then verse 22, he sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy and spreads them out like a tent to live in. He brings princesses to naught and reduces the rulers to this world to nothing. I'm so grateful for that, because of who's in charge, because who's coming back. I can be reminded that I don't care what your name is, whether it be Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, or whoever thinks they're big out there, whatever political system is out there, they are under the hand of God. To the Israelites in exile, they need to be reminded that God was in charge. Even though they were being held captive by the powerful Babylonians, the rulers of this world were and still held accountable to a greater and far more superior authority, and that is the God that you and I serve, the one that we're called to trust in. While it may seem that God is silent and letting the devil win, these verses remind us that everything is ultimately in God's hands. So even in the bleakest situation, let us remember that God is still on the throne, and this earth, and on this earth or in the next, God will make all things right. So as we live as exiles in this land, let us remember to place our hope in Jesus, because He reigns. He reigns, and our hope in Him is secure. Verse 21, it goes on. It says this, do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been told to you from the beginning? Have you not understood since the earth was founded? Then verse 22, it says, I want to read it again. He sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and His people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy and spreads them out like a tent to live in. When we look in this chapter in Isaiah, as I said, we usually jump to the last part because we like eagles, right? But the reality of it is, we often feel more like grasshoppers than we do like eagles. Now, scientists say this, a grasshopper is quite the athlete. A researcher wrote that if we could jump like a grasshopper, it would be the equivalent of jumping 40 yards. Ooh. But still, a grasshopper is still not cool. That's why there are more eagle mascots like the Philadelphia Eagles, right? I don't know if we have any fans of them, but that's okay. But there are very few grasshoppers, right? But I found one, actually. If you bring out the next slide, it's the Greensboro Grasshoppers. But let me remind you, they're a minor league baseball team. Not a major league, but there's let's keep that up, it's okay. They are the Greensboro Grasshopper. But it's not as cool as the eagle. When you're thinking about a cool mascot, none of you are going to say, oh, let's be a grasshopper, right? But the reality of it is that the people in Israel's time probably felt like grasshoppers, trampled on underfoot by the Babylonians. But we too may feel that we may be bullied by our circumstances and may feeling forgotten. And often we relate more to the lowly grasshopper than the majestic eagle. But Isaiah reminded the exiles of old that even though we feel more like grasshoppers than eagles, because Jesus is coming soon and He reigns, we can have hope that we too can soar like eagles. And that's why he ends with these 4 verses, starting in verse 27. The answer to what words can we use to comfort the people with? The answer is this. Starting in verse 27. Why do you complain, Jacob? Why do you say, Israel? My way is hidden from the Lord. My cause is disregarded by my God. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. We serve the creator of the universe. He is our God. He will not grow tired or weary, and His understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youth will grow tired and weary, and young men will stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. In this life, it's easy to feel like a grasshopper being stepped on. I can feel forgotten, depressed, burdened by life. But because my hope is in the Lord, the one who is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth, the one who does not grow tired or weary and has understanding that no one can fathom, we can one day soar on wings like eagles. We can run and not grow weary. We can stumble and not fall because our hope is in the one who made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is. Before I conclude, I want, as we walk through this life, it can be difficult for us, but I like the picture that Isaiah chapter 40, verse 11 paints. It says this: He tends his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms, and he carries them close to his heart. There's something, and he gently leads those who have young. There's something sacred about holding a child. My kids were at a space where I could hold them without breaking my back. My son is almost taller than me. There's nothing more comforting, truthfully, than holding my child, or maybe remember being held when I'm scared. And that's the picture Jesus wants you to have. We're his lambs. And even though we can get scared of the stuff that we can't control out there, my shepherd, Jesus, will hold you. He gathers his lambs in his arms, and he carries them close to his heart. He carries you close to your heart. When you're scared, when you're hurting, when you're sad, when you feel forgotten. Remember this verse, Isaiah 40:11, that he tends his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms, and he carries them close to his heart. Jesus carries you close to your heart, his heart. And I love the fact that even though he's the God that speaks and planets are created, he's still the shepherd. That's probably the one when you think of it, of all things that Jesus is, the shepherd is probably one of the most meaningful things, because a shepherd doesn't sit up high surrounded by Secret Service agents. A shepherd is with his flock. When the sheep are scared, he feels their fear. When the road is steep, he feels the climb. When the road is narrow, he feels the anxiety of the cliffs that are falling. When the days are hot, he feels the heat. When the nights are cold, he feels their cold. Jesus is our shepherd, and he's walking with you. That's why we can trust in Jesus. Yes, he can speak and everything happens, but he knows your heart, and he holds you close to his. Then, Isaiah, right after this, in Isaiah 43, he reminds us of this. Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I've called you by name, you are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. For I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel. What fires are you going through? What storms are you dealing with? Remember this. Your shepherd walks with you. And because he walks with you, you will not be set ablaze. You will get through the fires that you are enduring. This too shall pass, because one day soon Jesus will come, and we will be with him, where we don't have to deal with this stuff anymore. I want to end with one last story, and then I'm going to wrap this. Then I'm going to call the kids up to sing their song, Let's Trust in Jesus, okay? So kids, get ready at the end of this. There is about 10.5 years ago, there was a video that went viral of a father who was actually who led worship at Crosswalk and also at Loma Linda University Church. And in the middle of the night, his wife passed away, his pregnant wife passed away tragically. So they called the ambulance over, and they ran the child to Loma Linda University Medical Center. And they had to see a C-section on his wife to rescue the baby that was only 23 weeks along. As you know full well, full term is 38 and a half. That's what my wife, who's a NICU nurse, tells me. 38 and a half. But 23 weeks is young, and it's tough. It's a tough road ahead, and they were praying, and the NICU team at Loma Linda were doing everything that they could. And being a musician that he was, he sang the song Blackbird by the Beatles. And it's a song about a blackbird learning to fly. And his friend captured it, and it went viral as his dad was singing the song Blackbird about learning how to fly amidst the hum of the ventilators. Unfortunately, the baby was too weak, and eventually the baby did pass. So they had a memorial service for both this man's wife and his young son. And after all the tributes were done, after everything was done, the dad got up there. And he said these words. I watched the video this week just to refresh myself. And he says, what good can we bring out of this to this broken world? What good can we bring out of this? I know God did not compose this. God had nothing to do with this, but I can see him, tears streaming down his face, beginning to compose one note at a time, the most beautiful melody that anyone has ever heard. I don't know what it sounds like, said Chris, but that's a God that I believe in. He then proceeds to sing the song, This Is My Father's World, while pictures of his son played on the screen and his family and friends gathered to comfort him. As Chris sang that familiar hymn, the last verse grabbed my attention. This is my Father's world. Oh, let me ne'er forget that though the wrong seems off so strong, God is the ruler yet. But then he ends with this line that is not found in the hymnal. This is my Father's world. The battle is not done. Jesus who died shall be satisfied, and earth and heaven be made one. As I watched the clip again this week, I was amazed that amidst the unspeakable tragedy, losing his wife and son within a week, Chris was able to sing this song of hope. But at the same time, I realized it was because Chris believed that Jesus is coming soon, and he's still on the throne, that he was able to sing that song of hope amidst the tragedy. And that is the message of Isaiah 40. The message to the exiles to give them hope, and the message to us living here in 2025 in Orange County with all the uncertainty that surrounds us. Because this is my Father's world, we will get through this life. Because this is my Father's world. Despite the bombs and missiles flying in the Middle East, people can still hang on to hope and do good to their fellow citizens. Because this is my Father's world, we can rise amidst the grief that comes from losing a loved one and continue to carry out their legacy. Because this is our Father's world, we can be joyful amidst the uncertainty in life because we know that God will always provide. Because this is our Father's world, despite the diagnosis from the doctors, we can remain at peace. Because the great physician knows my name and he will get me through it anyhow, because this is my Father's world. Grasshoppers like you and I can soar on wings like eagles. We can run and not grow weary. We can walk and not grow faint, because our hope is in the sure and certain hope that Jesus is coming soon and still reigns. As the kids come up here and sing their last song, Trust in Jesus, let this be a reminder that no matter what the headlines bring, that no matter what the news says or what someone whoever's in power may threaten us with, remember that he too is answerable to the God Almighty. And that no matter what uncertainty you and I face in this world, we're going to come out okay. Because if we put our hope in Jesus, Jesus is coming again, and he's going to take us. So kids, I'm going to turn it over to you.